Welcome, my darling pretties, to our Beyond the Dawn of Business podcast for pretty, empowered female entrepreneurs. It's time to step into your power, pretties. Lift each other, support the squad, and choose a life filled with the autonomy and freedom to live your dreams. I'm your host, Dawn Beth, owner and founder of Beyond the Dawn digital business brand and agency. My coffee is hot and my eyelashes are on, so we are ready to go. Hello and welcome to today's episode. Today I want to talk to you about the difficulties of business and how to navigate your mindset during those times. Over the last few weeks, we have been all over social media singing and dancing and talking about all of the opportunities and possibilities and potentials that are available to us as business owners. And I think this is really, really important. It's definitely something that we don't want to ignore when we're looking for ways in which we can see the light at the end of a dark tunnel. That being said, as with all emotional states, we don't want to fall into toxic positivity where we're neglecting our emotional well-being and our mental well-being at the expense of trying to deny things that are actually happening. Over the last couple of weeks, what I have had the absolute honour to do is to check in with a lot of my people. Over the time that I have opened the Multi-Potentialite launch and I've allowed myself the opportunity in my schedule to have calls with people about their archetype, I was able to talk to them about the things that are really, really important to them right now. Right in this moment, not in 2 weeks' time, not in 2 years' time, but right now. One of the things that came up quite regularly for me in this time is this weight of responsibility and this feeling of fear about meeting that responsibility in a really, really good way. Almost everybody felt like they had a belief system that would allow them to know that they could do better if this part of their environment was just a little bit different, or if they had that thing that they don't have yet. What's interesting about this is that when we work in money mindset and when we work in mindset in terms of our kind of well-being, quite often we're looking for areas of latent trauma, triggers, or lack. And these things are quite normal for any human being to carry or to have experienced. It's really not something that is unusual. We all carry a bit of something. But when it comes to business owners, we tend to put such a huge weight of responsibility on our own shoulders that sometimes actually all of that self-doubt and worry can be the very thing that's stopping you from being able to go ahead and meet your potential. I really think that in times like these where things are quite changeable and there's lots of discussion about things being bad, it's easy to accidentally get sucked in and recognize and start to stack evidence towards the things that are really bad in our lives. And I love doing the opposite. I love stacking things in a positive review. But what I really, really think is important is that we are honest about the way that we're feeling. And I want to thank the people that came on those calls with me and chatted to me about their lives and their businesses and their goals and their dreams, because the one thing that did happen was absolute, fantastic, vulnerable honesty. Those discussions were incredibly valuable, not just for the people that I got to chat to and advise, but for me. Really, really incredible for me to listen and hear about what you're dealing with and how your days are going and the things that feel like blocks or feel like hurdles or feel like struggles for you. Now, my first and really, really important area of kind of advice whenever I'm in a situation like this is I rely on my positive psychology. And positive psychology is something I talk about a lot on this podcast, sometimes covertly, sometimes openly like now. But basically, it's about having the opportunity to recognize how you have control and how you don't have control. So I lovingly suggest that if you're sat in a situation in your business or even your personal life right now where everything feels a bit heavy and it's affecting your well-being, or you're feeling a little bit not quite right, to maybe make a little list of all the things that you think are compounding that feeling, and then put them into two categories. What are the things that you actually have control over, and what are the things that you do not have control over? Okay. Now, the list that you do not have control over needs to still be made aware. Like, you need to still be aware of it. You still need to bring that to your conscious mind. So do read it, and as you're feeling through that and you're writing things down in the non-control arena, have a look at what those things are. Recognize what category they belong in. So for instance, something not being in your control might be an energy bill being more expensive than you expected it to be, or somebody in your family having a health situation out of the blue. Those are things that you cannot control. Okay? Think about them. Allow them to enter your conscious awareness, and then find ways to make peace, not with the thing, because some things are unfair, and the idea of things being unjust is a genuine feeling that you should honour, but make peace with the fact that you can't control that happened, and let it go. Okay? You might not let the other feelings around it go. You might be sad, you might feel annoyed, you might be frustrated. That's all okay. But let the feeling go that you could have done anything differently to change that outcome, because these are the things that you cannot control. Okay? Then with the other list, the things that can be controlled, I want you to categorize them into easy, medium, and hard. Okay? So easy things to control might be simple things like getting more sleep, drinking more water, things that make your body feel better. Medium things to control might be having difficult conversations, making decisions that feel a little bit nerve-wracking, taking the time to face something that feels uncomfortable. And then the hard things might be bigger things, might be things that you want to change in your environment, perhaps the house that you live in, or the area that you live in, or the person that you're in a relationship with, or anything like that. Of course, these will all be bespoke to you, and they'll all be completely relevant to your life. Once you have that list and you've been able to give that category of easy to change, medium to change, difficult to change, I want you to see how many of those things actually bleed into each other. So for instance, if you got more sleep, would you find that you had the energetic bandwidth to have more difficult conversations? If you were around positive relationships that fill your cup, do you think you might have the confidence to actually go ahead and make those key decisions and face the things that are a little bit difficult for you? Have a look and see how many of them can join hand in hand in getting through those changeable things. Okay? Pathway thinking and being able to look for solutions rather than assign blame are two really fantastic tools I rely on, and I speak of it quite frequently on this podcast because they are so good for us to have in our arsenal. Give us the opportunity to find ways to make things better, not necessarily on a grand scale. We are not trying to, paint the Sistine Chapel overnight. What we're trying to do is shift the needle in the right direction, just little bit by little bit. The other thing beyond this list I think is really good for you to recognize is that quite often there is a commonality around the things that you are feeling. Psychologically, we know that often the things that we are experiencing as humans are shared experiences across the board with like-minded people of the same kind of vibe. Okay? So if you're looking to your left, And there are entrepreneurs that are your friends that are loving life and everything's fantastic and everything's wonderful and, everything's hunky-dory. That's great. But please recognize that sometimes we fall for our own marketing and it looks like everything is sunshine and kittens and roses, and we're just skipping down the red carpet to our private jet with our Louis Vuitton hand luggage. And actually, that's not always the absolute truth, okay? Quite often, if there is a squeeze in the industry, that squeeze is felt, fair enough, in different degrees by everybody, but it's usually felt across the board, okay? You might look to your other side and notice that some of the people that you associate with are struggling more than you are. Or it might just be that they are allowing themselves to be open and honest and vulnerable about that struggle. Either way, positive relationships, whether you are a positive relationship to somebody else or whether somebody else is a positive relationship to you, this is the time for us to step up and be there for each other. There are so many things that we can do to support each other as small business owners that have absolutely nothing to do with buying from each other or exchanging cash or even exchanging affiliate opportunities, referrals, any of that stuff. All of that stuff is bloody fantastic, and it's a great way for us to connect and support each other. We can support each other just by sending a kind message through Messenger to somebody and making sure that they know that their heartfelt exchanges into the world aren't being completely lost, or that they have done something that has changed your perception, or that you appreciate what they're doing, what they're trying to do. You really can spread kindness absolutely everywhere. I think it's really important that when things feel heavy, that we recognize the level of things that are actually truly important. For those people that have experienced grief or witnessed, recognized, lived through the loss of a loved one and have experienced that in a kind of direct way, it's almost good sometimes to tap back into that feeling. Because quite often the things that we get ourselves all het up about on a daily basis are the things that don't truly matter at the end of the day. One of the amazing concepts that I teach when I have my VIP days, my CEO days, and in my masterminds and things like that is the difference between CV and eulogy thinking. And this is something that I have been working on with my people now for a couple of years. I love it. If you're working day to day to build your CV, that's seemingly great, right? You are building your career, you're building your reputation, you're doing what you need to do to earn money, to be in the marketplace, whatever marketplace that might be. It gives you the opportunity to be that business owner or to be that employee or to be that person, and it somehow informs your identity day to day. And that informs our identity day to day, and we hold a lot of weight. We put a lot of value into that identity as though it means something. Okay? And there's a bit of ego. Let's all be honest now. That particular identity is dripped in honey-flavored ego because we want people to think we're good. And my entire business is built on that. Oh, look what I can do. How cool is this? People who underestimated me. See here. You underestimated me. Look, and there is something here. Yada, 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 right? It's fantastic. But when I die, it's sad to think about, but it will happen one day. When I die, the people who stand up and talk about me and talk about who I was as a person when it comes to my eulogy are not going to stand up and say, Dawnnie was a business owner and she won awards for being the most empowering digital marketing agency 2024, and she was social media businesswoman 2023, and she had her advertisements up on Times Square in New York over the new year. they're not going to sit there and say, Dawney, here is a list of her CV, business identity, attributes. What they're going to say, what I hope somebody will say, is the nice things about me. People very rarely say the bad things about you at a funeral, even though they know them. You obviously become, on that fantastic, almost holy pedestal once you've passed. Nearly all the bad things no longer exist nor matter. Much like your business identity, you would hope that somebody would mention a kindness that they experienced or witnessed from you. You'd want them to say things like, she contributed to the world in a positive way. You'd want them to say things like, I remember that time when we did this thing. I remember that time when she gave to the world, when she gave to this person, when she supported, when she loved, when she was kind, when what she did that day mattered to other people too. If what you're doing day to day is focused on the ego identity and it's focused on the CV and another attribute under your belt and another thing for people to be impressed by from a work perspective, you're missing the point. This is why we look at positive psychology in terms of purpose and belonging, okay? So if things are a bit tough right now and you're carrying a lot of weight and you're thinking, oh my gosh, business is so difficult, my life is difficult, you might have issues with relationships, you might have issues with finances, you might have issues with lots of other areas of life, there's so many things that can go wrong or that can feel really heavy. Just recognize that actually these things that I'm worrying about now, will they matter? On my final day on this planet, will they matter? Another fantastic concept is that, will this matter to me in 5 years? If it doesn't matter to you in 5 years, don't spend 5 minutes on it. Don't worry about it. Okay? I love that analogy, that quote. It's been knocking around for a million years. I'm rinse and repeating, but it's so true. You have control, and you can stick this in the list of the things that you can control in terms of your mindset spiral. You have the opportunity to allow that spiral to go upwards, or to allow the bad things that are happening to feel like gravity and pull that spiral downwards. But that's you. You have control of that. You have the possibilities to make that happen for you. If I leave you with one takeaway today, it would be for you to recognize, if nothing else, even if you don't do the rest of the exercise, it's for you to recognize that you hold that power of mind over matter. Okay? And yes, it may feel like the whole world is on fire, but you have the power to recognize where you can make those all-important mindset shifts so that you can see a little bit more clarity in what to do next, rather than allowing yourself to lay down into the pursuit of being completely combated by those negative energies and those things that are making you feel like actually things are really heavy. You have the power, darlings. So take it back. Do what you need to do. Remember micro pleasures. Have a listen back to other podcasts about micro pleasures. Don't ignore them, because they are the small, sweet things that actually tip things back in your favor. But for now, if all you do is recognize that you have the power to change the way you accept the situation you're currently in, that is everything.
If you're loving our Pretty podcast, come on over to Social Pretties, our online safe house and sisterhood community. It's a safe space where female entrepreneurs connect and thrive in a warm, welcoming fold of pretty amazing women. You'll find an easy redirect in the description, and I can't wait to see you in there. And depending on where you're listening right now, we would love it if you would click subscribe or follow so that you can be the first to know when our new podcasts come out.